This is Fred. And over the next 2 weeks, Fred was going to be predicting the 2022 World Cup knockout stages. You see, every 4 years, a different animal is faced with the task of predicting the World Cup. And this year, I wanted to see if my goldfish could do the same. So this is how Fred predicted the winners of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, today's date is the 3rd of December 2022, and that means it is finally time for the knockout stages of the FIFA World Cup. And the first game Fred is going to be predicting for us today is the Netherlands versus the USA. So how Fred was going to be predicting games for us was pretty simple. We were going to be placing flags in front of his fish bowl and dropping 2 pieces of food in at the same time, and whichever piece he ate first was his winner. So Fred has gone for a Netherlands win. Let's see if he has any afterthoughts.
It's called football, not soccer. Also, here's a quick message from today's sponsor, OneFootball.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Yes, that is right. Today's video is brought to you by the great people over at OneFootball. And for those of you that don't know, OneFootball is the perfect app to keep you up to date with everything that's happening in the football world. You can follow the latest news from your favourite teams over at OneFootball, and now that club football is back, I think it's the perfect place to stay in touch with the latest scores, transfer rumours and breaking news from the top clubs. You can also take a look at OneFootball's original content and see what's trending across the football world on social media at the minute, making it perfect for any football fan. So if you want to take a look for yourself, be sure to check out the link in my description to join OneFootball today. But without any more anticipation, let's get back to the video. So after Fred predicted the Netherlands to beat the USA, the game kicked off in Qatar. And thanks to goals from Depay, Blind and Dumfries, the Netherlands took the win. So it seemed Fred was off to an incredible start, but his work for today wasn't done yet, with Messi and Argentina facing off against Australia. And with the food in place, Fred made his prediction. After kicking off in Doha, Messi bagged an early goal to see Argentina take the win and Fred go 2 for 2 on his predictions. But with that, it brought day 1 of the World Cup knockouts to a close. But there was still a long road ahead. So today is day 2 of the World Cup knockout stages, and Fred has 2 more matches to predict for us today. And they were both 2 pretty massive games as well, with both France and England looking to secure their spots in the quarterfinals. And after an amazing start on day 1, Fred made his predictions for day 2. After Fred chose both France and England to beat Poland and Senegal, the games kicked off. And with Mbappe cooking up against Poland, France easily made it to the quarterfinals while England saw off Senegal 3-0. Now Fred had a 100% record. But with Japan taking on Croatia and Brazil facing South Korea, Fred faced some of his toughest predictions yet. And while Fred pretty confidently saw Brazil as the winners against South Korea, he predicted Japan to beat Croatia. But after a really close game, the winners actually came out on top as Croatia. And so Fred managed to get his first prediction wrong. With 2 round of 16 games left, Fred could still pull it back though to have some redemption. But he ended up predicting Spain to beat Morocco and Switzerland to beat Portugal. And unfortunately for Fred, we all know how that turned out. So Fred went into the quarterfinals with just 5 out of 8 predictions correct. Okay Fred, this is it. It's quarterfinal time. So day 1 of the quarterfinals is going to be seeing Croatia take on Brazil as well as the Netherlands taking on Argentina. Okay, so Fred, you've got a massive day ahead of you. What are your pre-match thoughts?
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble.
Okay. So with the first match between Croatia and Brazil set to kick off, we put the flags in place. Then everything was up to Fred. And initially Fred went for a Brazil win, but changed his mind to Croatia, before finally deciding on Brazil again. Okay, so for the first quarter-final game, Fred has gone for a Brazil win. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Yeah, this is pretty awkward. So despite what everyone would have expected, Croatia actually did the impossible and beat favourites Brazil in a penalty shootout to reach the semi-finals. And Fred was left with a big fat L. But despite everything, Fred did his best to pull it back and predicted Argentina to beat the Netherlands, which he of course got right. But with 6 out of 10 predictions correct for Fred, we moved on to the final day of the quarterfinals. And today had some of the biggest games yet, with France facing up against England and Morocco against Portugal. And somehow, Fred actually predicted Morocco to beat Portugal. And while he originally considered England to beat France, Fred ultimately saw France make it to the semi-finals.
I guess it isn't coming home.
So as the quarterfinals came to a close, Fred walked, or swam, into the semi-finals with 8 out of 12 results correct. But some of his biggest games were still yet to come. So here they are, the World Cup semi-finals. We are just 2 games away from the FIFA World Cup finals, so these are the most important games yet. We have France versus Morocco and Argentina versus Croatia, but who is Fred gonna pick as his winners? And with Fred faced with his biggest challenge yet, could he handle the pressure? So as the Argentina and Croatia flags were put in place, it was all in Fred's fins now. And as they kicked off, Fred knew Messi was destined for a place in the final. So Fred has just gone for an Argentina win, and that means if he's correct, we're going to be seeing Lionel Messi in another World Cup final. With the game finishing 3-0, Fred's record was only getting even better, but there was still one semi-final left. France and underdogs Morocco were the only 2 teams left that could face Argentina in the final. And now Fred was faced with the decision. And he chose Morocco. And even though Fred might have been wrong, Morocco still left some incredible memories for everyone watching the 2022 World Cup. Now though we had our finalists, and Fred had everything to play for. It's World Cup final day, Fred. So today was the day, and it was the biggest day of Fred's career yet. And the World Cup final was going to see Lionel Messi have one last attempt at the trophy, but standing in his way was one of the world's biggest talents. Now though, Fred had one last prediction to make. And he's gone for France. So if Fred's prediction is correct, it means we're going to be seeing France lift the World Cup for a 2nd time in a row. So on the 18th of December, Argentina faced off against France in the World Cup final. And even though Messi and Di Maria put Argentina 2-0 up, France's Kylian Mbappe pulled France back into the game to force extra time and penalties. Ultimately though, it was Messi that walked away with the World Cup. With that though, Fred's journey was complete. And even though he might not have gotten every result right, he still gave it his best shot, and surely has his place in World Cup history, no matter how small it might be.